Welcome, everyone. My name is Ray Kuhl. I'm CEO of PBSI Technology Solutions. I'd like to thank and welcome many of you who are long-term clients and friends. Many of you, for the first time, this is your first exposure to PBSI. I want everybody to know our goal in all of the webinars we do is to inform and educate, not to sell. We offer services, but this particular webinar is really important, and I am glad everyone has made the time to attend. We're going to move really quickly. I'll apologize in advance for speaking quickly, but a lot to cover. The idea of security training is so important. And last week we mentioned an invitation, or a couple of weeks ago now, we had yet another client who fell victim to a click on this email, which uncovered names within their network, ended up with a wire transfer overseas. It's so frustrating to know how to avoid and just understand that not everybody is trained. So the message from me to all of you, and this goes for all PBSI staff as well, the last and least of our employees is just as important to train as our executive management. So today's topics, we're going to briefly review why is it such a big issue that emails and passwords have been exposed? What's that do to our network? We'll talk about content, password guidelines for staff, security recommendations for staff, email safety principles, which we'll cover. And we continually add new content. So if you've seen a prior webinar where we've covered some of these things, we're learning all the time and updating materials. And then I'm going to demonstrate the ongoing security training we use at PBSI for our own staff. It's really excellent. It's very cost effective. And I want to make sure you understand how it can help train employees. So for those of you not familiar with PBSI, we supply technology services and security services for firms in healthcare and in other industries all over Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana. And I'm very blessed as CEO to be able to say we just have a large number of really dedicated staff. Large percentage of our staff have been with us for a long time. I know knowledge helps clients. So the first thing, I'll be brief with this. Why do we need to train employees? So I'm going to do a short demonstration. Some of you may have seen this demonstration before. PBSI subscribes to a security monitoring service that, among other things, shows all kinds of statistics. Currently, the number is 2.9 billion email addresses that have been compromised, of which 1.2 billion of them have exposed passwords. And what that means, if you think that your own password or some of your staff may well have been exposed, you are almost certainly right. That is certainly true at PBSI, and that's what I'm going to demonstrate just really quickly. Going to look at PBSI's domain. So this will show all of and there are 50 of these over the past few years, where the most recent one was early this year. And scrolling down, what you can see is there's a column for exposed password. This is a real password from a real PBSI employee. And in some cases, the password wasn't initially exposed, but it's been cracked and it's for display and sale out on the internet. So many of these are former employees, but once the email is exposed out there, the fact is it remains for sale forever. And when somebody has an access inside of your network because of even a former employee, that it's possible that that will lead to compromise. So one of the main elements that makes this worse is that employees, all of our employees, I include myself in this, I used to do this frequently, I try not to do it anymore, we use our corporate email address, so mine's rayc@pbsinet.com. Well, my Amazon account might have been tied to Ray C, and then I use a password for it. And the incidence of that among all of our staff is really rampant. So one of the principles, we want to make sure that we never, each of us, never use the same password for a work site as for a personal site. Because once my email address and what used to be my normal password is exposed out there on the internet, it can be used to access our corporate network, including other accounts. So imagine electronic search from a hacker comparing 1.2 billion exposed email addresses and passwords against databases where looking for the title of CEO, CFO, controller, MD, office manager, and so forth, and then comparing that electronically, try that same password and login combination at various banks, payroll companies, and so forth. This is very real, and it's very easy to do electronically. And the only solution to prevent email from being exposed and to make sure that people understand the critical importance of changing their passwords is training. Undertrained employees create unacceptable risk, and unfortunately we see all the time in the same companies where you as an executive in our client may have attended other webinars, but maybe somebody in your office has made a mistake because training the manager doesn't usually translate to training the people who sit around us. So where does training fit in? So real briefly, the protections of effective cybersecurity include having an effective firewall, making sure our PCs are protected with antivirus and patch management, having things monitored so we can immediately be alerted and active when something does take place, making sure that the data that's important on our network that is protected is encrypted, making sure we have especially online, that is weapons grade protected against ransomware, meaning it's encrypted locally and it's also in the cloud. Conducting a periodic security risk analysis to sit back and ask the question, where are our risks? And then today's topic, the big one, train all staff. The statistics vary, but something on the order of 90% of security incidents result from an employee mistake. So the topics: password guidelines, general recommendations, email safety, and ongoing training I'm going to delve into briefly in some areas. So first of all, password guidelines. Once we understand that our passwords may well have been compromised, and first of all, we can do a search for you. PBSI can do a search for any client or a friend to identify if there have been any exposed passwords inside of your domain. It's easy for us to do. Get in touch with us. Once we learn, though, that most of us do have exposed passwords out there, the critical thing we have to do is change our password. So I would start with the presumption with all employees to say any work-related site, change your password. Don't use anything you've used in the past. Once that password is changed, it limits the ability for somebody to get inside. Now, if somebody's already gotten inside, that won't help. But change your passwords, and don't use normal, easy, and certainly not the same password. Don't use work passwords on personal sites and vice versa. Strong recommendation, use a secure password manager. I used to use Dashlane, it's a fine product. I use LastPass now, it's a more popular product. And the good password managers, LastPass is free. There are some things you get from the premium version, but frankly, the features in LastPass free are really, really excellent. It will automatically start by accumulating the passwords you may have stored, maybe inappropriately, but you've stored on your PC or laptop so that you don't have to remember that password. So it will start by gathering the things you've already learned, wiping out those stored passwords, and then making those passwords available on any device where you are automatically updating each one. So on my PC, my laptop, my Mac, my iPhone, my iPad, my Android, whatever devices I use, if I store a password one place, I can use it other places. So why is this so important? I don't think there's anybody listening who doesn't agree that we all have an issue with managing passwords. And we all have our own methods. Many of them we won't admit are unsecure, but we do our best. So there really is no good solution other than a password manager. So another general idea is enable two-factor authentication for all key sites. So your bank, your 401k, any site where you feel like you have some financial risk. Most sites have an ability to do two-factor authentication, meaning you use a second device, your phone generally, or an authentication application to make sure that you have to physically be present to authenticate the login. And if you'd like to know if your passwords have been compromised, we can help you do that. So password guidelines, don't reuse, change your passwords now. And if you're sure they haven't been compromised, no need to change them again, but that's very difficult to be assured of. Okay, passwords really key. Other general recommendations, when in emails or on websites, beware of fake download buttons. increasingly, you may have seen, as many of us have seen, that the phone is increasingly used from your local area code, which is very frustrating, and some of them are simple advertisers that we can ignore. Some of them are much more dangerous, where you're requested to change something, or this is an alert phone call, or this is your account's about to be closed and all your information wiped out. Unless you do not respond to those calls, credible organizations will not make a phone call to you with any kind of an urgent action required like that. Pop-up advertisements, even if it's interesting, don't click. And there are blockers you're probably aware of. And then when you're on a site that you're not really familiar with, just don't do free downloads. Among the worst offenders are those that say, clean up your PC, run this free test. Just don't do it. Okay, so a key topic. Each of you will get an email after the webinar with an updated list of the elements on this page. So if you don't make good notes or whatever, please don't worry about it. We'll send all of this to you. So email safety principles are really important. So first of all, understand the difference between solicited and unsolicited email. If Ray Cool sends you an email, you know Ray, you trust Ray, hopefully, maybe. But if you didn't expect it, then it's unsolicited. So if you requested information of Ray and he replies to you, that's solicited. Rarely is there a need to be concerned. But unsolicited, even if it's somebody you know and trust, you have to go through a process of asking a bunch of questions. Anything unusual about this email, you can hover over the sender name on an email to see if the email address is as expected, but a lot of times it might be. Time of day, other recipients on the email, brief content should be a heads-up warning, anything that's out of character. Why would this person be sending this correspondence? So you may look at an email from Ray and say, I would expect this. This is a webinar invitation from PBSI. Okay, it's unsolicited, but it's not unexpected. So there's a process. So what seems unusual? Misspellings, grammar mistakes, phrasing, colors, formatting, font variations. These are things where people make mistakes, and we see spelling mistakes, all kinds of things in scammers' emails. They're very, very bright about how to use technology, but sometimes they're not as good at Microsoft Word. Beware of social media. So this is the same thing. You get an email from a social media site or with a click to a social media site. Just beware that Facebook and others are rife with phishing scams, and your friends are not foolproof. And even if they're a very security, let's say you went to Ray's Facebook page, which really hasn't been touched in 10 years, and you say, well, I trust Ray, doesn't necessarily mean that Ray was paying attention or there isn't some ad on somebody's Facebook page. So just be very careful about clicking on things in social media. So antenna up, main thing, really be paying attention diligently to every email. So safety principle 3, don't get your news from email. We've had some great examples of emails that came that I thought, I did not know that. Well, it turned out they weren't true, but I really wanted to click, except for I know, don't get my news from my email. This is a very commonly used technique, and around something that's going on, if it's Olympics or an upcoming holiday or a disaster that takes place, almost immediately there will be scammer emails taking advantage of this with new information that you didn't know and pictures that will be really hard to imagine and so forth. And so you need to ask the question, too good to be true, want to make me curious, who wants to make me curious? So pay attention to unsolicited, always have antenna up, look for anything that might cause concern, and stay away from news from email. Go to your email or your news source directly. Links specifically, hover over a link, check spellings, unexpected content. There's a really good 2-minute video that's among the know before content that I learned from that helped clarify exactly how do you evaluate a URL to know if it's legitimate or not. So really important to understand how to know how to hover over a link and know what's okay or not, whether it's the real vendor's website or not. Don't respond to confirmations or resets or security resets. Do not click on something in an email, even if they know something about you, like your name or part of your credit card number, because those things get out onto the internet and you don't know for sure if yours has or hasn't, or at least most of us would not know. If you think a request might be legitimate, this is Amex telling me they think my account's been compromised, go to Amex site and log in. And if there's a security alert, it will be right there for you to find. And might take a half a minute longer than responding to a click, but you'll save yourself heartache. And once you have made that click, you don't know what's been compromised. They may have been successfully installed a keylogger on your PC, and from that moment forward, for the next year, you think, no problem. That must not have been a bad link that I clicked on. All the while, they're grabbing every keystroke that you've keyed in, which is one reason why you want monitoring and vulnerability scanning done, which we do for clients on a routine basis. So think twice before you click on a link, and the same thing goes for attachments, which is pretty well understood. Okay, one other key principle that's not really email, but it's related to: don't log into anything on public Wi-Fi that requires a password unless you're using a VPN. So if you're using a LastPass or a Dashlane password manager to log in, they encrypt traffic, and so that doesn't expose the password. But if you're keying it in on your phone or on your laptop, people can sit, and there's another really, really interesting and informative 2-minute video in the know before content that shows how it's so easy for somebody to go into a Starbucks, look like they're just drinking their coffee on their laptop, and what they're doing is watching every keystroke you're typing on your laptop. So here's an interesting thing about public Wi-Fi. Public Wi-Fi is not secure. Cellular is secure. Feel free, when you're not using Wi-Fi, to use passwords on your cell network. That's actually always encrypted. So be aware of common tactics: shipment confirmations, resume attached, anything with an attachment, and any security alert. So these are just some basics. I'm now going to go through some examples of emails to try and identify what kind of practical things we've seen. Many of these are new, some of these are not new, but they're still legitimate. So here's an example of a security email. So you may recall it was right at January 1st, December 31st, where there was publicized information that Intel processors had a problem where it created vulnerabilities that software updates were required. Well, this was called the Spectre or Meltdown. So on January 6th, this email was received, and it's a security email. You may have read or heard about this major vulnerability. If you want to secure yourself, just click this link below. If you want instructions, click this link. This is a scam email. It would have resulted in Keylogger being installed. Here's another one: incorrect password limit reached. You've entered the wrong password too many times. Really, has somebody been trying to get into my account? Is this me? Do not click. This was a bad email. This wasn't from Amazon. So you just have to be aware that people are very careful and clever in fooling us. So shipment confirmations, looks like a UPS email, looks like a FedEx email. These are not real. These are scam emails. Here's one: eFax. Interested in eFax? It looks like a typical plain email, but click here to view this message if you want more information. It's a scammer email and would have resulted in this Bitcoin ransomware notice if it had been clicked. So these came from real examples, fortunately. Here's one where on the day that the Charlottesville jury came back and acquitted the felon in Charlottesville who drove his car into a crowd, this came to my email, and I thought, oh my goodness, I did not know that. That's amazing. Well, it didn't happen. This is a fake email, and if you had clicked on watch the footage, you would have been scammed. Same thing happened United Airlines the day that a passenger was thrown off a plane. This email came in maybe the next day and said the CEO has resigned over the controversy. And I remember looking at that thinking, you got to be kidding me. I did not know that. Well, it never happened. It wasn't true. This was an example where breaking news in an email was used to be spam. Bank emails. So a bank email, almost all, there are still some that will, but bank emails, do not click on banking emails. Most banks now don't. So this is a scam email. This wasn't from Citibank, so of course you don't want to click on a scam email. This one came from My Bank Huntington, you notice there's information to me, but there's nothing there to click. So it's saying, if you want your statement, then go to our website and get it. Trustworthy, unsolicited emails. So goodwill, right after a disaster took place, how much do you want to donate? You click on one of these buttons and you've been keylogged. Kroger, oh, that's good. Kroger's offering things to several downtown businesses. That's interesting. What can I learn? Bad email, that would have been a scam. So you just have to be really aware. Anything that has a button, so DocuSign, they had a big breach some couple of years ago, and we expect review a document from DocuSign. This email was not from DocuSign. It was a scam. Credit Karma, you want to see your credit scores, click on that, would have been a bad result. So it's really important that heads are up, and we need to be trained on exactly what to pay attention to in emails. So I'm now going to go demonstrate one of the most, or I'll say the most effective training resource that we have seen. So this is a company called KnowBe4. As an end user, you have to have at least 25 people, maybe 50 people to sign up for KnowBe4. PBSI clients, we can sign up as many as 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 employees to get KnowBe4 content. So you pay a small monthly fee, $3 per employee, and you get access to all this content, and PBSI helps manage this training process for you. So it starts with initial training. We have some discussion. How would you like the training to work? Then we do a baseline phishing test, finding out who might be, without warning, tending to click on an email that isn't really valid and give us some sense of who might be vulnerable. What's interesting, though, is different things produce vulnerabilities in different people. Somebody who won't click on an Amazon special might click on a security reset email. So it's not always the same people who are just constantly clicking on things. Then we follow up by creating a campaign where it's a combination of phishing emails, training security tips, videos, which are now really, really good. A bunch of content's been added. There are a lot of 1-minute videos and 2-minute videos with tests and quizzes included, and interactive episodes, and then also latest heads-up emails. So you see a couple of examples of this. So KnowBe4, we do all the setup for you. So this is the way it works. I'm looking at PBSI's site, and and you'll have a login for your own site as well. So it tells you the last campaigns you've done for each campaign. What was your click rate? So 3.3%, 3.1%. I believe the starting expectation for most organizations is something over 10 to 15% of folks who will click inappropriately. And once you've been in a training process for long enough, you'd hope that would go to 0. And many times we get 0 clicks. That's what we want to see. We're not really trying to fool people. We want to make sure that people don't get fooled. And frankly, probably most of these clicks we asked a couple of employees intentionally to click so that we could show at least some result in demonstrating campaigns. So the setup of KnowBe4 involves campaigns, and each campaign is given a name, and it's associated with an email template and a landing page. So each email that goes out is either going to be a training email or a phishing email or a educational video or a quiz. And so the first thing we do in setting up a campaign is we decide what email template we want to use. So I'm going to look at community templates, and one of the great things that KnowBe4 does is they're producing updated content all the time. So, system templates is what I want. And so you see these templates from August 1st and July 30th and so forth. This is what they do all the time. Every day or 2 or 3, they're producing multiple new things. So one example that we could choose today, if we wanted to do a campaign, I'll show you what that email would look like. It's a Best Buy email that looks like it comes from Best Buy, and it says $150 and tax-free this weekend only. Click on anything here, and we would have found ourselves, click here to redeem your voucher. Now we're going to the landing page. So there's an email template and there's a landing page. So the email template tries to fool somebody or to educate them, and then the landing page says, here's some information for you. So Another example is I'm going to pick the check password here. So this is a training email. So this is an email that might go, and instead of trying to fool somebody, it's informing them that beware the scam of the week, free gift card phishing scams, knowing that certain dates coming up, the bad guys know it's if you like free stuff, blah, blah, blah. So never share information. So there's just a variety of training emails like this. So you intersperse phishing emails with training emails. And then there's another I'll just show you real quickly here. That is a LinkedIn. So here's one that says, we're concerned someone was trying to access your account without your knowledge. Log in. Well, if you click on that, you get another warning email. There are all kinds of landing pages, which I'll show you in a second. So they're really, really good email templates. You don't have to create the way to fool or inform employees. Then we're going to look at landing pages. So what are the choices once somebody clicks on an email, if you're trying to get them to click, what options are there to send them to? So again, I'll look at most recent. So here's check password page. So if somebody had clicked on an email, this one sends them to, and notice it fills in my email address and supposedly my password, and all I have to do is click on this and I get another landing page. So this sends me to another, and see what it says. Thanks for checking your password. No further action needed on your part. They just captured my email. They just installed a keylogger and didn't tell me about it. So this is exactly what the scammers do. And so here's a case where instead of informing the employee, oh, you just made a mistake, we instead capture the list of employees who made that mistake so that we can help them understand. So another one, and I won't go further, but here all I need to do is say, I'm not a robot, and bam, my email's been captured and so forth. So the excellent design and the regular content update are what really we see about KnowBe4, and they also have just a absolutely wonderful series of ongoing education pieces that we organize and send out to all staff at a client who's participating in KnowBe4. And they're really, really useful because they're the ones, they being KnowBe4, who are thinking about what kind of education is needed. So I'm going to just do one more quick example of a landing page. So point of failure video here on the dangers of public Wi-Fi. This is, and you're going to listen through my speakers just for a moment here.
What I'm going to do is demonstrate how hackers compromise you and your business. So first of all, let me show you this contraption I have here. I'm going to pick it up, and it's 3 devices. What we have here is a battery pack. We have a device called a Wi-Fi Pineapple and an Android cell phone. Now, the Wi-Fi Pineapple is a tool that hackers use and people that do security testing, and it's a device that actually has 2 radios in it. And what's the last?
So I'm going to stop there, but so that video goes on to say, if it's in a backpack, somebody can sit there with their backpack beside them and their laptop, and they're just watching everything that's being clicked. And there's nothing like something that shows me how easy something is if I'm an employee than a real life, oh my gosh, I didn't really think it was that easy for hackers to steal my information on public Wi-Fi. Okay, so system landing pages, there are all kinds of different choices. And then the final thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the series of educational videos, and in some cases these might be landing pages, but most of these are videos that are really, really well done. It used to be that training videos were 30 minutes or 60 minutes or 45 minutes, and the problem is nobody will just watch that. I mean, if you get them together in a group, maybe, but nobody on their own, I don't believe. I certainly have a hard time clicking a link to watch a 45-minute video. I produce 45-minute videos, so I wouldn't watch one. So some of the content that's available, these are providers that KnowBe4 has arranged, and some of these are really, really good providers. I'm going to do just a couple of things here really quickly. So I'm going to use just a couple of very short videos from Popcorn Training. Spot the Fish Game. This is just an example of how one of these might be organized. Each one of these are different. They're different content. Once I start the course, it tells me what's going to happen. It allows me to learn some things, and then I can ignore that. Oops. So this is a test, and it says, here's an example. What should I do? Okay, I learned from that then. So then here's a little video of what happens next, and I'm going to just continue this for a few more seconds. Which works a bit like a physical address. In this example, .com is the top-level domain. It's like the country of the address. So it goes on to describe what actually are the components of a URL and how can you see whether something's a fish or not. So this content is just really, really well done. It's intended for exactly the purpose we're talking about. It is for employee training where you give short 2-minute videos or 1-minute videos to employees. So I'm going to go back to my list to see where to go. These have a bunch of 1-minute videos, and I won't give examples, but they're really well done. Some of them have tests, and testing employees is both engaging and it's useful for understanding because we capture the results of the tests. So there's another set of content, and each of these are different. Some of them are cartoonish, some of them are just straight informative, some of them are they're all different, but the topics that get covered are really important and you can click. So a PBSI client has access to diamond level, meaning every single piece of content available on KnowBe4 is available to you. You can pick it yourself or you can have us do it for you. There are just many of these sets of content that can be picked. So I'm going to stop with this now. We're out of time, but I wanted to show you that this KnowBe4 content is really, really good and it's easy to set up. And if you'd like information about it beyond this webinar, let us know. The point isn't that you use KnowBe4, but the point is you do something. So in summary, secure our desktops, make sure our passwords are secure, behave securely with email and on public Wi-Fi, be responsible, me individually, each of us, to know that my files are backed up. If I know that I'm storing files on my PC that aren't somewhere else, I have a responsibility to the organization to say, hey, wait a minute, hands up here, is my PC being backed up? I have a responsibility to know that sensitive information I work with is encrypted, and I have a responsibility to learn. So there's the summary. There are all kinds of options that we offer. I'm not going to spend time going through these, but if you'd like information about one-time training, we do this very cost-effectively. In fact, we'll send you free videos like this. Any video that we create, we'll send to you for free. Just ask for it. If you're a PBSI client, you can use this for your employees. And we'll customize classes either online or on-site for clients based on your set of stuff you want an employee to know. So we can set up KnowBe4 for you. We can do password searches. We can do data breach scanning and other areas. So we're finished with webinar. I want to thank you for your attendance, and we are